Another thing I want to talk about is the whole history of party paramountcy in Guyana, which has not been discussed enough, because I think that is very relevant to Kimraj Ramjatan's statement.
Ramjatan, yes.
Ramjatan's statement, because I want to just briefly touch on this. When the PNC were in power, you mentioned it before, from I believe it was 65 is when they got in, is that correct?
Right, yes.
And
right through to
66 was independence for Guyana. And then, and they were in power right up to...
For 28 years.
Yeah. For how long?
28 years.
All right. And is it an established fact that there was vote rigging and other irregularities there?
Several. You know what? It is hard for the PNC people now, like David Granger, the president, Joe Harmon, Walter Lawrence, and them, and Amna Ali, to deny that.
Yeah.
Because
but do they deny it? Do they deny it? Do the PNC deny that history, or do they accept that it happened and that they are sorry for it?
Denying that Burnham was rigging the elections.
Sorry?
They're denying that the PNC rigged the elections over the 28 years.
So they don't agree that that it was rigged. Okay, because the international journalism and scholarship, like if you read the New York Times or if you look at political science, articles or books about Guyana, it is accepted as almost a fact in those discourses, but in the Guyanese politics itself, the PNC don't accept that at all. You're telling me?
No.
I just find the history of the PNC. It's someone from the outside, and looking in, and for instance, things like the murder of Walter Rodney.
Yes,
I think this has and for listeners who do not know who Walter Rodney is that Walter Rodney was a Pan-African intellectual and scholar, and he led a movement called the Working People's Alliance that was trying to also break the racial politics as well. So it was a non-racial politics that was based on racial pride rather than denying race or whatever. And he was very well known and respected in his circles, and he's considered a legendary figure internationally in Pan-Africanist circles.
He was,
but his murder in 1980, the outside world considers it, that Burnham ordered it, and that it was part of the violence under the PNC regime.
Yes.
How does it? Well, the APNU is sort of like a rebranding of the PNC in a sense. I mean, I know it is a coalition grouping, but the People's National Congress, which is the PNC, is the dominant force in it. Is that correct?
Even over the Alliance for Change, which is the bigger party,
right?
Than all the other coalition parties.
But I'm interested in how the PNC today in government deals with that accusation. I mean, do they accept that it was the Guyana Security Services that killed Walter Rodney or not?
I'll tell you this, Kurt. Mm-hmm. The matter was raised in Parliament, and it was debated, Commission of Inquiry, in Parliament. And I was shocked beyond my wits that Moses Nagamutu, who was then one of the front runners in the PPP, who knew, he still knows that it was the PNC that was responsible for the death of Walter Rodney. Mm-hmm. Yet he defended vehemently any such allegation or supposition in Parliament when he spoke at the Rodney Commission of Inquiry.
So, and Moses Nagamutu, what position is he in the PNC? Now
he's the Prime Minister.
Right. So he's a Prime Minister.
Prime Minister.
And well, it's interesting that it's an Indo-Guyanese, an Indian in Guyana who is holding that position, and the racial divide is not absolute. It's not 100% of Indians are with one and 100% of the Africans are with the other.
No, that's true. Yeah, there's a fairly good mix.
So they deny the Walter Rodney murder.
They deny Walter Rodney's killing. They deny the rigging. They deny pushing race.
Now, there's another doctrine during the PNC. I mean, I've seen in Guyanese newspapers, I think it's a Guyana Chronicle, they regularly refer to that time under Forbes Burnham as a dictatorship, and they call it the PNC dictatorship, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the PNC would deny that it was a dictatorship.
They still deny it.
Right. So, all right. Because countries like the Philippines will accept that under Marcos it was a dictatorship, or Chile will accept that, under General Pinochet it was a dictatorship. But Guyana is not, the PNC is not accepting that part of their past.
They're denying it, but in deep down in their heart, they will not publicly admit it because it means smearing the name of their founding member.
Yeah. I see. Because,
that is party paramountcy.
Yeah, the party paramountcy idea, I think, is so crucial. And I just find it amazing that it's not discussed more in the Caribbean or even the world. I mean, unfortunately, the world has not shown very much interest in what's been going on in Guyana for so many years. I mean, there's, incredible abuses and so forth, but the world turned a blind eye toward it. The doctrine of party paramountcy, it sounds to me 100% communist, like the People's Republic of China.
Yes.
Because what party paramountcy means is that the party is even above the country.
Yeah.
Well, is it true? Because there's not enough information that I've been looking for my years and years as a political scientist. But I have read certain accounts, they mentioned it in passing, that the party flag was raised
over the national flag.
Sorry?
Or higher than the national flag.
Yes, and over the National Assembly in the Parliament. Is that correct?
They do it sometimes, yes.
Wow. So, and do they still do that?
I haven't seen it, and I can't lie on that one. I haven't seen it recently.
You're right. Okay, but
what happens?
Yeah.
In the history of Guyana, all the parliamentarians, PPP, PNC, AFC, APNU now, UF, not one member of a party ever voted while sitting in parliament against the party.
Right.
Not one ever did that.
Mm-hmm.
You're bound because all you have is one vote against your party, and they'll remove you. I voted Friday night on the 21st of December 2018, and Saturday I was expelled. Saturday morning, I received an email saying you're expelled from the party.
Yeah, and I just want to get to some of the I want to add to the background of this, because I mean, maybe for contemporary Guyanese it's not in the foreground of the head, but I suppose for me as a political scientist, as someone who observes history in that way, I mean, these things are always up at the front of my consciousness. Like the world knows about Jim Jones in Guyana, and that just in case any listeners may not know, it's that American preacher who brought down a sort of interracial black and white congregation to
close to 1,000,
and it was a cult, and he made everybody kill themselves, and a terrible massacre. But what people don't know about is, I just recently found out about it, Rabbi Washington and the House of Israel.
Yes,
which is a black radical sect from America. A person of questionable character. I think he was wanted for prison in the 70s.
Same thing like Jim Jones.
Yep, and a black power advocate. And he said black people were the true Israelites, and he had a kind of cult thing. But he worked very closely with the PNC government. Is that correct?
Yes. He was the hitman for them,
He was involved in Walter Rodney's, well, he's been implicated at least in the murder of Walter Rodney.
Yeah. That is why those who know that can't deny that the PNC was responsible for the killing of Walter Rodney.
Yeah.
And the debate in Parliament and defend the PNC in that regard is, it's an abomination by itself,
Yeah. So, I mean, so there's this past that I suppose that Guyana still has to deal with. Because and another part of the past, again, which, I mean, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I think all these things come into the debate, even if people don't realize it. You know, what happened during the pre-independence period with the breakup of the PPP, with the PNC forming by Burnham, which is similar to how Jinnah left the Indian National Congress with Gandhi and Nehru.
Yes, and
Pakistan. There were communal riots, and my understanding is that there were villages that were mixed before, but then they were ethnically cleansed, and Indians were put out, or Africans were put out, and there was a lot of murder and I mean, just tremendous violence that happened in the run up. Did you experience any of that?